Hello, 7th and 8th grade science. Miss Fleming here on this beautiful sunny Wednesday where it's finally not supposed to snow and it's finally supposed to stay nice again. And I'm inside because it was too bright to record outside and there's noises. But I'm happy because it's sunny. So anyways, without further ado, I am going to be reading you your science notes. I decided I'm just going to make one whole big video because it's going to be easy for me in the long run. Also, not very many of you have been checking out my videos, so little hurt here because I'm working real hard to try and help you guys, and I just want to see you guys work real hard too. I know not all of you use Canvas, but most of you have phones, so you could at least, check out these videos and they might help. But anyways, enough about my sad story. Here are your notes. So you were continuing what you were working on last week in science, just writing down some notes. You left off at fishery resources. Aquatic ecosystems are home to many species of fish and other animals like clams, crabs, and shrimp that serve as food for millions of people worldwide. Overfishing is harvesting fish faster than they can be replaced by reproduction. It is causing a severe reduction in some fish. So pretty much people fish so many fish out of the ocean that they can't breed and repopulate and grow and continue existing in the ocean because we're just taking too many of them out. In 1950, it was estimated that the world catch of fish was about 19 million tons. By 1990, 40 years later, the world catch had increased to over 90 million tons of fish. And this is millions. That's a lot. That's almost 100 million. So the population of some species of fish had dropped so low that scientists fear that they may disappear altogether, like an endangered species. If we don't take care of them, if we don't do something, then we're just going to lose that fish. So the fisheries of the oceans should be a renewable resource. If managed effectively, humans can rely on fish as a source of food while maintaining the fish population. So if we do it correctly, we can still fish from the ocean and still have the fish be successful and existing in the ocean because we're not taking too many. The United States has created guidelines for this commercial fishing. The guidelines provide regulations on how many fish can be caught and what size fish can be caught. Aquaculture is a method that will help sustain fish populations and provide food for humans. Aquaculture is the raising of aquatic animals for human consumption. Obviously, air is a resource that all living organisms are dependent upon. The condition of the air affects the health of not only humans, but all living things. So everything needs air. We need to breathe. Air resources. So smog. Smog is a mixture of chemicals in the air that appear as a haze in the atmosphere. It is due primarily to automobile exhaust and industrial emissions. Smog is considered a pollutant. A pollutant is a harmful material that can enter the biosphere through the land, air, or water. The burning of fossil fuels fills the atmosphere with chemicals as well as particles of ash and dust that can cause health problems. Fortunately, most industries today use technology to control the emissions from smokestacks. Automakers also have strict emission standards that must be met on automobile exhaust. As a result, air quality of most American cities is improving, but this is an ongoing problem in other parts of the world. Acid rain. When nitrates and sulfates are released into the atmosphere, they combine with water vapor to form droplets of nitric acid and sulfuric acid. These droplets fall back to the land surface as acid rain. Acid rain can kill plants, damage soil, and poison aquatic ecosystems. Freshwater resources. Americans use billions of gallons of fresh water every day. Even though water is a renewable resource, the supply of fresh water is limited. Priority must be given to protecting water supplies from pollution and finding ways to better manage our water consumption. So as you can see, we just play in water. We have water balloon fights. That person just has the spigot on for some reason, but we connect hoses to them. We have pools. We have sprinklers. We use a lot of water. Pollutants enter water supplies in several ways. A, chemicals are often improperly discarded. B, The heavy use of fertilizers and pesticides enter waterways through runoff water. C. Discarded waste can seep through soil and enter underground water supplies. D. Domestic sewage from sinks and toilets contains nitrogen and phosphorus, compounds that cause algae blooms and growth of bacteria in aquatic habitats. I don't know if you guys remember, but a couple years ago, there was this big thing about an algae bloom in Lake Erie, and it was really bad because it was killing things and affecting things negatively, and that was all from water runoff from farms and the fertilizers they used, and it got into the lake. That's not good. Nature has ways of naturally cleaning and purifying fresh water, as long as humans help protect these natural systems. So A, wetlands can help to purify water running through them. B, as water moves through a swamp, densely growing plants filter pollutants out of the water. C, forests and other vegetation help to purify the water that seeps into the ground. So plants are like natural purifiers. They get all the bad stuff out. Human influence on the biosphere. We have ozone depletion. Ozone, or O3, that's its chemical name, is a naturally occurring gas that is vital to life on Earth. Ozone is in the upper atmosphere and screens out most of the ultraviolet radiation from the sun. So, like the stuff that gives you sunburn? Well, that stuff could be a lot worse if we didn't have this ozone layer. Ozone depletion. Humans who are exposed to too much UV radiation may suffer from skin cancers, cataracts, and decreased resistance to disease. Plants and phytoplankton, the producers in the biosphere, are also affected by high levels of UV radiation. The ozone layer essentially serves as a global sunscreen, protecting all life on Earth from being exposed to harmful ultraviolet radiation. Humans are causing the destruction of the ozone layer by releasing harmful chemicals into the atmosphere. The most important of these harmful ozone destroying chemicals are known as chlorofluorocarbons, or CFCs. CFCs were once thought to be harmless and were therefore used in a variety of products. CFCs are found in all of the following. They're used as coolants in refrigerators and air conditioners. They're used as propellants in aerosol spray cans. They're used to make plastic and foam, and they're used to clean electronic equipment. Some more in ozone depletion. In the upper atmosphere, CFCs act as a catalyst, speeding down the breakdown of ozone molecules. That means they start like a fire. They start a reaction where the ozone starts to break down faster. It is estimated that a single CFC molecule can lead to the destruction of up to 100,000 ozone molecules. Hole in the ozone layer? Beginning in the 1970s, atmospheric measurements began to detect alarming declines in the levels of ozone in the atmosphere. The destruction of the ozone is more severe over the polar regions and more severe at certain times of the year. For a few weeks each year, an ozone hole forms over Antarctica. This hole is an area of very low ozone concentration. And this is just showing you like that hole. The reduction in ozone levels will affect life on Earth. There will be many new cases of skin cancers in humans. Plants and other photosynthetic organisms can be affected, modifying entire ecosystems over time. International agreements to stop the production of CFCs by the end of 1995 has led to a 75% reduction of CFCs. So it's been a few years, and they passed some laws and did some things so that those harmful things aren't created and used so widespread. The substitutes for CFCs are expensive. Thankfully, the developed countries of the world are contributing to an international fund to help the developing countries make this change. It is thought that the ozone layer will start to build up again. Increasing levels of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, or CO2, is a naturally occurring gas in the biosphere. Plants use carbon dioxide as a source of carbon to build molecules of glucose during photosynthesis. Animals and other heterotrophs use these molecules of glucose as a fuel in a cellular respiration and give off carbon dioxide as a waste product. Photosynthesis takes in carbon dioxide to make glucose. Respiration breaks down glucose and releases carbon dioxide. Additional carbon dioxide molecules are released into the atmosphere when fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas are burned. During the Industrial Revolution in the 1850s, humans began to increase the burning of fossil fuels. As a result, carbon dioxide levels have risen in the atmosphere by 30% since that time. Some scientists estimate that if current trends continue, by the year 2100 or 2100, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere will be double of what it was in 1850. What is the danger of increased levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? Earth's atmosphere naturally traps heat from the sun. This is known as the greenhouse effect, and life on Earth depends upon this warming effect to protect the Earth from the cold of space. However, increased levels of carbon dioxide causes more heat to be trapped than is normal. This has led to warming trends that threaten to change the climates on Earth. Today, the average global temperature is about 0.6 degrees Celsius or 1 degrees Fahrenheit higher than it was in 1860. Scientists expect additional increases of 2 degrees Celsius, which is 4 degrees Fahrenheit, by 2050. Global warming is the term used to describe this increase in the average temperature of the biosphere. This increase will have global consequences to rainfall patterns and soil moisture. Sea levels will rise as more polar ice is melted by these increases in temperature. The effect of population growth. The human population is currently around 6 billion. By 2050, it is estimated that the human population will double to 12.5 billion people. What effects will this have on the planet? Ozone levels are stabilizing, but as the human population continues to grow, the use of fossil fuels will continue to increase. There will also be an increase in the clearing and burning of forests. Both of these will lead to an increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and hasten global warming, which means like increase or encourage it, or more bad things will happen. Of all the water on Earth, only 3% of it is fresh water. 2/3 of the human population already lack a reliable source of fresh drinking water. It is estimated that the humans already use 40% of the net primary productivity of the Earth. If we double our use, many other organisms will be unable to survive. Biodiversity. Biodiversity refers to the sum total of the variety of organisms in the biosphere. It can be measured in several ways. Ecosystem diversity. This refers to the variety of habitat, communities, and ecological processes in the living world. Species diversity. This refers to the number of different species in the biosphere. Genetic diversity. This refers to the sum total of all the different forms of genetic information carried by all the organisms living on Earth today. Biodiversity is one of the greatest natural resources on Earth. The many different species on Earth have provided humans with food, industrial products, and medicines. Plants, animals, fungi, and bacteria have provided painkillers, antibiotics, heart drugs, antidepressants, and cancer medications. Scientists estimate that there are at least 10 million species alive on Earth today. Of these, only about 1.5 million have been identified and named. It is estimated that 20% of existing species may vanish by 2030. When biodiversity is lost, potential sources of compounds and materials that could be valuable to humans in the biosphere are lost forever. How do humans affect biodiversity? Biodiversity is lost in the following ways. 1. Habitat destruction. 2. Hunting a species to the point of extinction. 3. Introducing toxic compounds into food webs. 4. Introducing foreign species into a new environment. Keystone species. A keystone species is a species that is critical to the functioning of the ecosystem in which it lives because it affects the survival and abundance of many other species in the community. One example of a keystone species is the population of sea otters along the Pacific coast. Sea otters feed heavily on sea urchins. Sea urchins feed on kelp that form the bases of underwater forest communities. When sea otters were hunted to near extinction, the sea urchins increased in number and overfed on the kelp. Entire kelp communities began to disappear. Eventually, sea otters were protected from hunting, and the kelp forest communities recovered. Sea otters are a keystone species because they affect the survival of many other species in a community. Extinction of the keystone species has serious effects on ecosystems. Extinction occurs when a species disappears from all or part of its range. An endangered species is a species whose population is declining in a way that places it in danger of becoming extinct. Again, extinct means there are no more and they can't come back. A population declines in number. As a population declines in number, it loses genetic diversity, making the species even more vulnerable to extinction. The threat of pollution to biodiversity. Many forms of pollution can threaten biodiversity, but one of the most serious threats comes when toxic compounds accumulate in the tissues of organisms. A classic example of this is the history of DDT used as a pesticide. DDT was first thought to be the perfect pesticide. It is cheap, remains active for a long period of time, and kills many different kinds of insects. However, the repeated spraying of DDT on crop fields led to DDT entering streams and rivers and runoff water. There are two problems with this. First, DDT is not biodegradable. It cannot be broken down in the environment. Second, when DDT enters the bodies of living organisms, they do not eliminate it from their bodies. Biological magnification. Aquatic plants pick up DDT from water and store it in their tissues. Herbivores eat large amounts of plants and store even higher levels of DDT in their tissues. Carnivores eat herbivores, and the toxic DDT is concentrated further. Biological magnification occurs when concentrations of harmful substances increase in an organisms at higher trophic levels in a food chain or food web. Top-level carnivores are at the highest risk. The threat of invasive species to biodiversity. An invasive species is a species of plant or animal that has migrated to an area where they are not native. Humans often accidentally or intentionally transport organisms to new areas. When introduced into a new habitat, these organisms often become invasive species. So if you guys have heard about the Japanese murder hornets or murder wasps or whatever those are called, those are considered an invasive species because they're not natural to the United States. As you heard, they've been seen like over in Washington, the state of Washington, which is thousands of miles away. But nonetheless, if they are successful there, they could become even more harmful to the environment because they're not supposed to be there, and they're going to do bad things to the native species that are supposed to be there and help that ecosystem thrive. So an invasive species reproduces rapidly because its new habitat lacks the parasites and predators that controlled their population in their natural setting. And these are all examples of invasive species. What will happen if a new organism is introduced into an area in which it has no natural predators? It will reproduce unchecked until it reaches the carrying capacity of the area. In the process, it may cause the decline or extinction of other species. Again, these are more examples of invasive species. Snakehead fish, zebra mussels, some plant called kudzu. And that's that. So, hopefully this helps. If you have any questions about what you read or what I read to you or anything in these notes, just let me know and I will answer as best as possible. If not, enjoy your hopefully sunny but probably a little rainy week.